He didn't look dangerous. He didn't talk like a criminal. And for decades, nobody questioned him. Because when the most powerful institutions in finance trust one man, when regulators sit in the same room and see nothing wrong, and when billionaires quietly line up to give him their money, the last thing anyone imagines is that the entire system is being played. Yet that is exactly what happened. This is the story of how one man fooled everyone and stole $65 billion. To understand how a scam of this size was even possible, you have to forget everything you think scams look like. This wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. There were no outrageous promises or get-rich-quick slogans. The true genius of this scheme was that it felt boring, predictable, safe. And in finance, safety is the most seductive lie of all. Bernie Madoff didn't rise through chaos. He rose through order. He built his reputation inside the very institutions meant to protect investors. He wasn't an outsider attacking Wall Street. He was Wall Street, a former chairman of NASDAQ, a man invited into regulatory discussions, a trusted name whispered in private rooms where money moves quietly, away from public eyes. That position alone created a psychological shield. People assume criminals hide in the shadows. They never imagine them sitting at the head of the table. But here, where the first curiosity loop begins. The scam didn't grow because Madoff promised extraordinary returns. It grew because he promised ordinary ones. Small, consistent gains. No drama. No volatility. In a market addicted to excitement, Madoff offered emotional anesthesia. And that was the hook. Human psychology is not built to question stability. When something works again and again, the brain relaxes. It stops checking. That's exactly what Madoff understood. His victims weren't greedy amateurs. They were hedge fund managers, charities, banks, foundations, universities, and entire family offices. Some of the smartest financial minds in the world outsourced their doubt to reputation. And reputation is contagious. Once a few powerful people believe something is safe, everyone else follows. This is known as social proof, and it is one of the strongest forces in human Madoff didn't need advertising. His clients recruited new victims for him. But here's the twist. Many people begged to give him money and were turned away. Scarcity made the illusion stronger. If he didn't need their money, he must already be successful. Right? What almost no one realized was that behind the scenes, nothing was being invested at all. No trades, no secret strategies, no genius algorithm. Just numbers on paper, fake account statements. Old money paying new investors, a mechanism so simple that it feels insulting in hindsight. But simple systems, when protected by authority and silence, can survive far longer than complex ones. At this point in the story, most people ask the same question: how did nobody catch this? And that's where things get uncomfortable. Because the truth is, people tried. Warnings were sent. Red flags were raised. But they were ignored, dismissed, buried. Not because the evidence was weak, but because the implications were terrifying. If Madoff was a fraud, then the system itself was broken. And systems don't like questioning their own foundations. There were analysts who couldn't mathematically explain his returns. Others noticed that his volume didn't match real market activity. One whistleblower sent detailed reports to regulators for years. Years. But nothing happened, because confronting a lie at that level means admitting collective failure, and large institutions are wired to protect continuity, not truth. Meanwhile, the machine kept running, decade after decade, wealth transferring silently into a void, families planning futures that didn't exist, charities expanding based on money that was never real. Generations were affected without even knowing it. This wasn't just theft, it was time theft, trust theft, psychological devastation waiting to be triggered. Then came the moment no Ponzi scheme can survive: demand for cash. When markets collapsed during the global financial crisis, investors panicked. Suddenly, everyone wanted their money at once. That's when gravity returned. And with it, the truth. The $65 billion wasn't gone. It was never there. When Madoff finally confessed, It wasn't after being exposed by regulators. It was after his own sons turned him in. And the event and the scale of the damage was hard to process. Entire institutions collapsed overnight. Retirement plans vanished. Charities shut their doors. Some victims lost everything at an age when recovery was impossible. The emotional aftermath was as brutal as the financial one. But there's another layer most stories stop at, and we won't. Because Madoff wasn't just a criminal. He was a mirror. He reflected something uncomfortable about how modern finance works. We don't invest in numbers. We invest in narratives. We trust titles, prestige, and familiarity more than evidence. And that vulnerability didn't disappear when Madoff was arrested. If anything, it evolved. Today, new versions of the same psychological trap exist everywhere. Different language, different technology. Same human weaknesses. Authority bias, fear of missing out. The assumption that if something survives long enough, it must be legitimate. The Madoff scandal wasn't an anomaly. It was a warning. One we only partially listened to. And here's the final delayed payoff. The most dangerous scams aren't the ones that promise miracles. They're the ones that promise normalcy. Because when something feels stable, people stop paying attention. They stop asking questions. They hand responsibility to reputation. Bernie Madoff didn't outsmart the world. He outweighted it. And that might be the most terrifying lesson of all.